What's going on, guys? Today's video I'm going to show you my stamina Nightblade build for the Blackwood chapter of the Elder Scrolls Online. This build is purely a Ganker build, so if you're looking for something that's more balanced of a Nightblade build, there'll be a link down in the video description for my other build, which is a lot better for 1vx and that kind of thing. This build is just strictly for ganking. So the sustain's going to be really bad. We're just stacking as much as we can into weapon damage and critical damage. I forgot to mention that there'll be a link in the description of the video if you'd like to see the build in action, so you can kind of try it before you buy it. For the race, we've gone with Khajiit because we're trying to stack as much critical damage as possible. We have 64 points into stamina. Our unbuffed weapon damage is 4414, but that goes up to about 6k with continuous attack and rally, as well as we're a stage 2 vampire, so when we come out of stealth we get an additional 300 weapon damage. So yeah, 5580, and then with continuous attack it'll be about 6k. Weapon critical is irrelevant because we're using mechanical acuity in this build, so we have a window of 5 seconds where we have 100% critical chance. We're using the Shadow Mundstone. This increases our critical damage and healing by 17%. We're going full divines on the gear, so that will boost that. Food we're using is Bewitched Sugar Skulls. And then we are Vampire Stage 2. For the gear, we're running a 5-piece of mechanical acuity, all divines. And we're running a 5-piece of Spriggans. So I tested multiple sets here. My goal was to get the biggest in caps possible. And I tried Witch Knight, I tried Morag Tong, and I tried Spriggans, and Spriggans came out on top. Before I get a bunch of questions about why I'm not wearing Stunes and why I'm using Spriggans instead, the reason I'm not using Stunes is because of the combo that we're using. We're coming out of stealth with a heavy attack into an in-cap, and for us to proc Stunes, we would have to surprise attack first, which would stun them and proc Stunes, but when you do a burst combo that way, a lot of the time, most of the time, the enemy's going to dodge your in-cap. So if you want to hit 100% of your in-caps, open it up with a heavy attack into an in-cap, and so that's the reason why we're using Spriggans. We're also using the Torque Tonal Constancy. All of these jewelry are infused with weapon damage. The Torque will make it so the sustain on this Ganker build is not as bad as usual. So typically on Gankers, the sustain is horrible, but with the Torque, it's pretty manageable. When your stam starts getting low, just cloak a few times. And then you can see that our stam recovery goes up to 2254, which is actually pretty good for a Ganker. So for weapons, we're using a Maul sharpened, and I tried a battle axe here sharpened for the extra crit damage, but the Maul actually came out with better damage than the battle axe did, so this is what I'm using. We have a shock damage glyph on it. That way we can proc minor vulnerability, which increases our damage done by 5%. We've got a 1-piece of Crags just for the extra penetration, and like I said before, make sure that all these traits are divines so we can get as much out of the Shadow Mundstone as possible. On the back bar, we're also using a bow and mechanical acuity. Now this is kind of, you can run different bow here if you're not going to use lethal arrow on the back bar. If you're going to go purely melee Ganker, then I would recommend running maybe critical riposte bow on the back bar. The back bar trait is sharpened, and we have a poison damage glyph, so get a little bit of extra burst damage out of the back bar if you're using snipe. So I mostly play this as a melee Ganker, but every so often someone will be riding, on their pony, and you'll want to hit them with the fat snipe. So it's also the reason why I've got Relentless Focus on the back bar as well, but I'll go through that when we look at skills. So for the skills, we're using Surprise Attack, Executioner, Rally. This gives us our major brutality. Camouflage Hunter, this gives us an additional 5% damage when we hit an enemy from flank. Channeled Acceleration, this increases our critical damage by 10%. And In Cap Strike, this is our main damage ability, and this is the ultimate that we've been trying to stack as much damage into as possible. So it's very important to make sure that you have one assassination skill on each bar. That way we get the hemorrhage passive, which increases our critical damage by 10%. On the back bar, we're running Shadowy Disguise. Lethal Arrow, this is a flex spot. If you'd like to run a melee only build, you can switch this out for whatever you'd like. Vigor, Shuffle, and Relentless Focus. The reason Relentless Focus is on our back bar on this build is because if we're light weaving Lethal Arrow and light attacks, we can then also fire off a Spectral Bow, and we get the Assassination passive Hemorrhage on the back bar as well. So it's very important that, like I said before, that you have one assassination skill on each bar. And then our ultimate on this bar is Undo, but you can use whatever you'd like here. You can use Soul Tether, or you can use the Bow ultimate. For the champion points, we're going to use Backstabber, Fighting Finesse, Deadly Aim, Untamed Aggression, Boundless Vitality, Slippery, Rejuvenation, and Hardened. And then for the green tree, you can choose whatever you like. I always usually just throw the Treasure Hunter passive in there. So I think that about covers it for the build. There's going to be a video down in the description for this build in action, and there's going to be another video down in the description for my more balanced Nightblade build if you're not looking to play Ganker playstyle. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and we'll see you in the next video.